How's your gardening going?
Oh man, I'm getting very dirty fingernails,
Yeah.
very healthy gut microbiome. I read a thing that said gardeners have very healthy guts because of all the dirt in their nails. Gross, man. Gross.
Or if it's not, it could be if that's true, then that's amazing.
Right? I'm getting a lot of soil. There's a lot of soil in my life these days. How
Yeah.
about you?
We're taking our garden, I feel like, really seriously this year.
Why? How did we just have a gardening awakening?
I for me it's because there's going to be people here and
It's true.
we're doing a retreat in a couple months, and if it's nice out, which I think it will be because it's going to be July, I want to have time in the garden, and I don't want people to like be having to stare at the weeds. Maybe we'll be able to like eat kale and arugula from the garden or something. I don't know. We'll be
Picked from our own
picked
organic
from our
gardens.
garden. It's like many things, I am held by smart accountability, being able to create amazing things because I know that there's going to be people here that we really want to take amazing care of with our super bound retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to feel bad that our house was at its cleanest when people were coming over, but now I just embrace it. I'm like, hey, we should have people over. And then the house gets nice and clean.
Yeah. It's not like oh, we have to look a certain way. It's more, it feels like an act of love.
Yeah.
And yes, we love ourselves too. We love our family, but it's hard to like motivate two young kids sometimes to like want to tidy up with us. And it's hard to motivate ourselves to want to do that sometimes. I can love myself in any state, but of how the house is, how tidy it is or not. So,
That's a good takeaway. I like that.
okay. We're not talking about that though today. What we're talking about is the idea of manifestation. So the last couple of episodes, we've kind of dipped our toes into some spiritual topics, spirituality at work, um, channeling content. Hope you liked that one. But recently, what I have noticed, I kind of went on a little bit of an Instagram rant. Now, my rants are pretty nice. I
Very
gotta
tame,
say, they're
very, very, very thoughtful and considerate.
yeah, because I don't want to do the thing that I'm criticizing, basically. But what I've noticed lately is there's a lot of people who are not in a magical or spiritual context. Like they're not teachers of esoteric wisdom or mysticism. They are not practitioners of different art forms. And yet there's a lot of people who are like on the outside commenting on things that they actually know nothing about. And sadly, it's been a couple people who I really do respect and I think are very smart. And I'm just kind of like, why? There's so many bigger things in the world that we could be talking about. I don't know why you got to go after astrology or limit it to like pop culture horoscopes. Or one recently was somebody talking about how manifestation is bullshit.
Spicy.
I know it's all for marketing, but we wanted to do this podcast because I do think there are people that probably do feel that way and maybe have even tried manifestation. And, we're not here to say what is real for you or what is the right practice for you. That's never, ever our approach. But if for any reason you like the idea of manifestation or you don't like it because it's never worked for you, I may have some ideas. We may have some ideas as to why.
Yeah. Let's go into it. The I don't want to make this too abstract here, but when people are commenting on things from the outside, there's an issue with that from the very beginning because like the scientific enterprise gained its foothold as basically the religion of our day by doing exactly that. It says, let's look at something that we're interested in, why we get sick, why apples fall to the ground, any of these great, mysteries revealed by the scientific enterprise. And let's look at them as an objective observer. And what we later on discovered is there's no such thing as an objective observer, right? The whole Schrodinger's cat, Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's
Yeah,
cat.
it's
Oh, is
got
that
the
the one with
little
the cat?
umlaut over it.
Oh,
The poor cat who
the
might
poor
be alive or
cat.
dead
Oh,
simultaneously at the same time, right? Basically, that the observer affects the situation, which, if you just kind of pay attention to your own experience, is patently true, right? Not that whether you're present or not, gravity exists or not, but your experience of the world is dependent upon who you are, how you see things, what state you are in. If you are in a state of flow and engagement, you experience the world differently than if you're distracted, upset, annoyed. And so the things that really matter in life have everything to do with the subject, with you. And so to question, is astrology real? Does manifestation work? As an outside observer who has no skin in the game, don't mind me, I'm just a scientist. I have no skin in the game, is a false pretense. Like, you can't start an experiment from that place of, I'm just going to be a skeptical observer. Don't mind me. None of this shit is real until you've proven it to me, for it to actually bear truth or falsehood.
yeah. And by the way, we love the scientists and the researchers that are part of our community. And kind of just knowing the very little that we know about that world, we don't know much, but we know something. It's very hard to have studies created and grants given for those things. So just because there is no scientific evidence about something, it may have something also to do about like what society values, because yeah, maybe it's not a really high impact of high importance thing to study, and that's why there is no study, there is no kind of scientific evidence. So just as an aside. Okay, but what we're talking about is going to be our anecdotal experience. And I would say kind of like from the get-go, even though I'm a witch, I'm like very open to magic and different things, I actually do sometimes have a problem with the way that the idea of manifestation is sort of sold to people. I know there are really deep, wonderful folks out there teaching this, but I do think it's one of those things where I was just looking at my little Hermetic book today. This is just one example. This happens in other cultures, but in like Western occultism, the idea of manifestation is actually just one of many principles from this sort of school of thought. And what people who are out there kind of teaching the popular version of manifestation often do is they take away all of the history, all of the information, and with that, often a lot of the core practices that you need in order to be good at that. So, like, for instance, a really simple way sometimes that people will talk about manifestation is you maybe have a practice where for 5 minutes a day, you go for a walk or you sit down and you visualize the thing you want to bring into your life, and you try to get yourself to vibrate at the frequency of the desire that you're attempting to bring in. That's amazing. The problem is that most people who attempt to do that don't have a grounded meditation practice, don't actually know how to visualize anything, and have no idea what it means to vibrate at the frequency of the thing they're trying to bring in. Do you disagree? You're just looking at me with giving me side eyes.
Well,
It's okay
because
to
you're at the
disagree.
side. You got no other way to look at you.
I'm gonna get scolded. I can feel it.
No, I completely agree that to make things commercially accessible, it often helps to strip away the challenging elements and to pump up the benefits of it. And so with manifestation, the message is often Get the thing you want, only 5 minutes a day. Like, what a proposition. Get what I want, only 5 minutes a day. Amazing. But when a deeper examination will reveal there are actually many other aspects that will put your vibration in tune with the thing that you want. And those 5 minutes a day, like maybe that's the starting point. That might be kind of somebody's first step on the path. But by selling, hey, that's basically it. It's it doesn't set anyone up for a good experience. And I think one of the main, like my big issue with it is it points to the getting of the thing as the main event, when the main event is actually who you become in order to be worthy. You are already worthy, but in order to vibrate in harmony with that thing, the transformation, the process, the refinement of self, the attunement of self, that is the action. That's the real challenge. That's the quest. But most people aren't interested in the attunement of self. They're interested in the prize. They're interested in the $1 million business, in the in the fame and the glory.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's like the energy of wanting something is not the same as the frequency of having it. And I can't even remember the quote, but Christopher Penzak has a really good way of talking about this. Like he talks about how, I'm sorry, Christopher, if I'm screwing this up, but he talks about how like manifestation, that idea of that practice it is just one really small part of a larger sort of magical education. And side note, there's a lot of people who I think don't like the word magic, would be really upset if I told them that like what they are doing as a manifester is what I do as a witch. They would probably be like pretty upset about that because whatever they think that means. But stripping away the esoteric mystical pieces of it is like I think of it, it's just really simple terms. It would be like someone telling me that I can take this Advil or this painkiller and I'm getting all the medicine I need. It is like just one small part of a much larger system that requires much deeper training. Like how offensive would that be for doctors out there, for someone to walk in and say, I'm totally qualified. I can heal anything with this Tylenol. Wouldn't it's so what is the word?
Oversimplified.
Reductive. Yeah. Like it's and it's also just like not true. It's not going to be that thing, that one pill is not actually going to work for every single condition that every single person could have. And so I think anytime we're taking a piece away from a larger system, it is just a disservice and it's really reductionistic. And especially for people who like have a problem thinking that they're doing magic when they're manifesting. But also might be why it's not working, because this is one of the most magical tools we've got.
Yeah.
Even for like coaches, when we talk about things sometimes where we have a process in our business called the visionary practice, where we actually spend time, it is a manifestation practice, where you spend time with the version of you somewhere in the future who's lit a specific lantern in your life, and you get all the wisdom from that version of you, and then you actually commit to going and doing something in service of creating that in reality. You are taking an idea and doing the work to make it real in the world. It is one definition of magic.
And in the question of does manifestation work, I think it's helpful to just sort of break down what are the elements that work for you and where might you not be kind of meeting the process with your own self? So are you wanting something, but not doing the inner work to clear the path to it? A lot of people say, well, I want to be fit, but they don't do the inner work to create the time, hire the coach, or commit to the program, have smart accountability, get themselves to the place, be willing to do the hard work. Like there's like 10 things you have to do to meet that desire. And the doing of the things is the easy part. It's getting over your own
Static.
habits of
Yeah.
mind, your own mental blockers to do those things. That's often so hard. That's why kind of the healing of static, that kind of understanding and integration of these parts of you that are actually against your desires. Because if there were no parts of you that were against your desires, you would have them right now. Your life would be exactly as you want it to be. But for many of us, there are things that we want to improve. And so,
Or not even improve. Like it's not always about improvement. Sometimes it's just about like shifting.
Yeah, you want them to be more in line with your vision for the life that you want. And so a good place to begin is really questioning, where am I not showing up in this mixture of inputs?
And this is where I think also if we're using a really like kind of a smaller example of like what a manifestation practice could be, but like if you're spending 5 minutes focused on a desire and part of the internal feedback you're getting is well, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing this and I should do this differently. Like if the internal narrative is really unhelpful, the other pieces of this work are going to be great. Like you need those. We need ways of connecting. I did a class just recently inside of our Superabound membership on the magic of the lower self, sometimes known as the nonverbal, pre-verbal self, the younger self, and how that part of you actually doesn't connect with words and ideas and shoulds and forceful notions. It's actually often sometimes even known as the shadow self, where it's the part of you that has cravings and desires and not always like the best self-control. That part of you actually responds better to emotional work, doing your spiritual hygiene, your energy clearing, getting all of the senses involved. This is why when we're doing in our practice, this is maybe not for everybody, but in our practice, we have all the candles and the incense and the mood lighting and the space, those sensory inputs and the sort of ritual experience talks to that lower self. And lower doesn't mean bad. It just means the part of you that doesn't operate up here. So manifestation totally works for a lot of people. And for some people, they don't have to do all the meditation, the years of meditation practice and grounding. They might just be so single pointed and visionary that they, can naturally they naturally vibrate with the frequency that they want to call in. But most of us are vibrating the frequency of wanting and not having. And that is not going to help you if you're trying to manifest unless you start doing some work in the world and some work within.
Yeah, wanting and not having.
It's the paradox. This is the paradox.
Yeah, what's the paradox?
I'll just share like a personal story that's kind of business focused. But early on, when I started the coaching business that now we have together, I was very focused because of the community that I was in. I was very focused on like reaching $100,000. That was like the big community-wide goal. And anybody who's trained in that school knows what I'm talking about. But like reaching 100K, 6 figures was like the milestone as a coach. And for the first 2 years of the coaching business, I was by myself. That was my main goal. I was doing all the things except for magic and manifestation. I don't know why I didn't involve myself in those practices while I was trying to do it. Regardless, I really wanted to meet that financial goal. And then we had a turning of the wheel of fortune in our life where suddenly, within a couple of months, we became millionaires. Kind of crazy to say. Millionaires. And I guess that's not a lot of money now.
Not like it used to be.
Money to me, because I mean, I had previously been making virtually nothing. And what was really interesting, as soon as I felt like I suddenly had money in my life, and it wasn't hard and it wasn't a struggle, it didn't come to me from working and overworking. It came through like some good stock options and a work like a job that you had done, and kind of a magical thing that happened that I've told the story on the podcast before. But the second I had tangibly the thing I thought I wanted, within a month of that, I reached 6 figures in my business. And it was really wild because I don't know, you kind of remember that time. It was just like a weird moment of saying, I don't need this anymore. And therefore, I was already I don't know, vibrating at the frequency of having money. And then it was so easy suddenly to be in my business and make money.
And what was the process that you went through?
The process actually at that time was I was doing work on my self-worth every single day. So I spent 6 months in a meditative process where I was not sitting around thinking, like crunching numbers and thinking, how am I going to bring in clients and how am I going to do this? It was not at all that. It was actually learning how to be worthy as I was, which took a lot of work. It was really deep shadow work. Yeah.
Which, if you're thinking about the coaching business
or any people business,
yeah, if you're not embodying the thing that you're selling, but if you're in a PR agency and you're not telling great stories, if you're in a law firm and you aren't thinking creatively and for the interests of the people that you represent, then there's going to be a disconnect, right? The thing you want will never come to you because you're not in the place to receive it. And so it strikes me that the money was flowing into your life at the same time that you were stepping into your own self-worth.
Yeah, and it was, and I think the other piece of that is that I wasn't doing self-worth work in order to figure out how to make more money.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. And
For its own
sometimes,
sake.
yeah, like it was like the biggest blocker to me being able to go deeper with my clients and to really listen to what I want and create that in my business was me thinking I couldn't share podcasts about channeling and magic and manifest, like whatever was going on for me at that time. I was not totally comfortable in my own skin. So I kind of hid behind the coaching tools that I learned from other people. I didn't want to develop my own thing. I didn't want to use my own authentic experiences and share more of who I am.
Yeah. So I think if we were to put a pretty bow around this whole, topic of which you could write many volumes, it would be stepping into your own authenticity, the core things that we talk about. It's like, what is the vision in your heart? What are the lanterns that are going to light that up? And how do you connect that inner with how you show up in the outer? And that is going to have the most power for your manifestation. It's not going to be from feeling like the inner environment is a desert and a wasteland and unworthy. Meanwhile, you're thinking very sincerely about the new Bugatti that you want. It's like those two aren't going to go together. The inner needs to match the outer in a way that carries you forward in your evolution.
I mean, that's well said, but I also just want to highlight that it's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah. No, that ain't easy.
It's not easy because you may have to commit to this more deeply than you know. And I'll say this even for the magical folks. So I know some people who are hanging out with us, they are doing beautiful ceremonial rituals. They are, lighting their green candles for the money and busting out the frankincense and really working with their own spiritual guides. But even if you're doing all of the magic and you're using all of the principles that are available to bring something into your life, that your work may not be the magical piece, it may be the mindset. I think it's probably true for everybody. You can't say you want something, ask the universe to support you with it, and then turn around and talk shit about it. The money is, we're talking about money right now, so we'll use money as the example. I see so many people who do money magic, but then have the worst things to say about people with money, have the worst relationship with money. They're not like investing in themselves in ways that feel like wealth to them. And that is also a contributing factor. So you can't just do the manifestation and the magic. You also have to live as if and support yourself through that static.
Yeah. What we're saying is this is deep work.
Deep work.
This is deep work. So anyone who says, "Oh, that's all just a bunch of woo, just a bunch of mumbo jumbo," just there's nothing to it. Everyone's just making it up. Those are people who are on the outside, not actually getting in and saying.
Or they did it for 5 minutes and they actually didn't do any of the work.
Yeah. Yeah, just standing back as the superior observer, rather than the person in the arena who is actually humbled by the challenge of creating something really important from whatever we each have.
And for those of you who feel like, okay, I'm doing all of the mindset work, I'm doing the magic at a deep level, and things that I'm trying to call in and vibrate in relationship with are still not coming. Sometimes that can be a gift too. I think I'm a pretty good manifester. I think you are an excellent manifester. And sometimes things don't happen that we really wanted to happen. There's always a reason. And to borrow something from a client I worked with a couple years ago, who used to say, there's always a reason it didn't happen, and it probably will just find out why in a couple months. We always find out why. Mm-hmm. So that too can be a gift from the universe.
It's raining now, and it reminds me of the walk that I took just this morning. I walked down to the river with our little girl, and I was noticing how the water was making so much happen. There was all this life around and inside the water, the birds, the fishies inside. There was a giant fish that was jumping right in front of us. It was crazy.
Getting all those morning bugs.
Yeah, getting the morning bugs. All the humans that were living around the water. And I was reflecting on what the water had to do to create all this magnificence. And the answer was just be itself. It wasn't hustling. It wasn't struggling. It wasn't pushing. It was just flowing where the riverbed took it, evaporating as the moisture took it that way, and heading towards the ocean as gravity and the channels of the land brought it that way. And that was kind of the lesson that I took from it, which I think is very relevant to manifestation, is that a certain amount of it is just you being.
Not you doing nothing. Not you waiting for the universe to do all the work, but being.
Yeah. So I think reflecting on what that means for you, what your being is, and how it is uniquely significant. I mean, we're here at the river in our town, and Like, what's significant about it? It's not some, it ain't the mighty Mississippi. But it is the one that it is. And so how can you be the one that you are in such a way that draws what you want to you?
And that is the most challenging part, I think, about all of this is how can you be the one you are? Having desires, having things you want to call forth, but not needing it, gripping it, counting or measuring your self-worth by the having of it. That's the hard part. And it's the mystical part. It's part of the journey and the shadow work and all of the good stuff. So I hope this has given you something to think about.
It's given me things to think about.
Yeah, me too. If you want to continue the conversation, we're always happy to hear what you've got to say. We're going to be talking more about manifestation and magic, and especially in the context of like how you also bring that into your professional life. Because I know some people feel like, ooh, if I'm doing that in my work, I don't know if that's okay. Is that spiritually ethical to call forth my goals through magical means? I have some ideas for you. And we're going to be talking more about that over the next few months inside the Superbound Life membership, which you can find out about at besuperbound.com/life.
See you there. Thanks for listening.
Take care.